Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we're going behind the scenes to uncover the hidden truths and inside stories of some of history's most notorious criminals. So without further ado, let's dive into this curious journey of discovery. But before we start, smash that like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. First up, Jack the Ripper. We call him Jack the Ripper, but we don't know who the person behind one of the older and most notorious murder sprees was. The killer appeared in London's Whitechapel district in 1888 and murdered 5 women, all prostitutes, and mutilated their corpses. Police surmised the killer was a surgeon, butcher, or someone skilled with a scalpel. The killer mocked the community and the police by sending letters outlining the acts. The most popular theory suggests that the killer's understanding of anatomy and vivisection meant that he was possibly a butcher or a surgeon. Although many suspects have been named over the years, the killer has never been identified. Next, Jeffrey Dahmer. Have you guys watched the latest Netflix series called Dahmer? If you haven't, this story will definitely give you goosebumps. Jeffrey Dahmer started killing in 1978, just 18 years old, and wasn't arrested or murdered until 1991 after a would-be victim escaped and led police back to Dahmer's Milwaukee, Wisconsin home. Dahmer had lived a shiftless life, dropping out of college and the army and living with various family members before being kicked out by his grandmother. It was there that some of the gruesome details of his life of killing were seen via photos of mutilated bodies and body parts strewn across the apartment. He even had a vat of acid he used to dispose of victims. In all, Dahmer killed 17 people, mostly young men of color. Dahmer's sensational trial, featuring exaggerated depictions of his eating the body parts of some of his victims and admissions of necrophilia, renewed the world's interest in serial killers. In 1992, Dahmer was sentenced to 957 years in jail, but was killed by a fellow inmate just 2 years later. The next one is Al Capone. He is a man who put organized crimes during the Prohibition era. Al Capone seized the opportunity to make boatloads of cash off, at the time, illegal liquor business. Capone's violent method of expanding his bootlegging operation across the United States, including the bloody St. Valentine's Day massacre, went mostly unchallenged thanks to the unsurprising fact that people enjoyed their booze. Al Capone was also a bit of a celebrity and was even known to donate his ill-gotten gains to charity. Federal authorities became intent on jailing Capone and charged him with 22 counts of tax evasion, and his 7-year reign as a crime boss ended when he went to prison at the age of 33. On January 25, 1947, he died of cardiac arrest after a stroke. Next, Jesse James. One of the most legendary figures in the American Old West, Jesse James also was a notorious train robber, and he and other members of James' younger gang weren't above murdering anyone who got in their way. Over their career, James and his gang were believed to have stolen approximately $20,000, but were nevertheless admired in their home state of Missouri, mostly because they supported the Confederacy during the American Civil War. James's status as a folk hero was finally cemented when fellow gang member Robert Ford shot him in the back. Next, Harold Shipman. Harold Shipman, also known as Dr. Death, is believed to have killed at least 218 patients, although the total is quite likely closer to 250. This doctor practiced in London and between 1972 and 1998 worked in 2 different offices, killing all the while. He wasn't caught until a red flag was raised by several people, including an undertaker, who was surprised by the sheer number of cremation certificates Shipman was a part of, along with the fact that most of the cases were elderly women found to have died in bed not at night, but rather during the day. Police mishandled the investigation, and Shipman kept killing until he got greedy and tried to concoct a will for a victim that named him beneficiary, which led the victim's daughter to become suspicious. He was finally convicted in 2000 and committed suicide while in prison in 2004. Moving on to next, Pablo Escobar. Formerly the main purveyor of Colombia's other addictive substance, Pablo Escobar wore many hats during his tenure in the Colombian-based Medellin cartel, including drug lord and terrorist. Escobar's massive drug empire allowed him to become not only one of the most powerful people in his native country, but also one of the wealthiest men in the world. According to Forbes magazine, Escobar was able to keep his wealth thanks to his ruthless pragmatism, and he was always willing to bribe, bump off, or bomb anyone that got in his way. The violent man met a violent end in 1993 when he was shot during a rooftop chase. The next criminal is John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was a friendly man who threw popular block parties, volunteered in local democratic politics, and often performed as a clown at local children's parties. In 1978, when a 15-year-old boy who had last been seen with Gacy went missing, police obtained a search warrant for Gacy's house. In a 4-foot crawl space beneath the house, where a penetrating odor was present, they were shocked to find the decomposing bodies of 29 boys and teenagers that Gacy had raped and murdered. In addition to the bodies found at his house, Gacy admitted to killing several additional men and disposing of their bodies in a nearby lake. His attempts at presenting an insanity defense failed, and he was convicted on 33 counts of murder and executed by lethal injection in 1994. Amado Carrillo Fuentes. Amado Carrillo Fuentes was the leader of Mexico's Juarez cartel, a position he obtained by assuming the group's previous boss, Rafael Aguilar Guajardo. Amado Carrillo became known as El Señor de los Cielos, meaning the Lord of the Skies, because of the large fleet of jets he used to transport drugs. He was also one of the wealthiest criminals in history, with a net worth estimated at over $25 billion. He died in 1997 from complications during the plastic surgery he was getting to hide from authorities. Next, Belle Guinness. Hell's Belle Guinness was America's most corrupted female serial killer in history, who likely killed both her husband and all of her children. What is certain is that she murdered most of her boyfriends and her 2 daughters, Myrtle and Lucy. Between 1884 and 1908, the Norwegian immigrant is believed to have slain over 40 people in Chicago, Illinois, and LaPorte, Indiana, profiting from insurance claims and other scams before disappearing without a trace. Nobody knows for certain just how many people Belle Guinness murdered, but it seems she met a grisly end. In February 1908, a fire devastated the farm. Amongst the wreckage were the bodies of Guinness's remaining children and the decapitated corpse of a woman. Although officials identified the remains of Guinness's, doubt quickly spread, as the body was much smaller than the tall, heavy-set Belle. However, Belle's true fate remains unknown, although unverified sightings continued for decades after her death. Finally, Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy loved the attention his murders garnered him, and many in the United States were more than happy to give him that attention. The western US was his hunting ground, with an unknown number of murders piling up, mostly college-age women from Washington and Oregon to Utah and Colorado. Bundy was once arrested in Colorado and convicted of kidnapping, but he escaped custody, moving to Florida, where he killed multiple times more. Bundy's final arrest and its aftermath captured the nation's attention, as the summoned murderer acted as his lawyer during what is believed to have been the first televised murder trial, welcomed interviews, and boasted of the fans he had created. He was eventually executed in an electric chair in 1989. What infamous crimes do you remember the most? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.